Pacific leaders have taken the first steps towards history-making action on climate change and repairing regional instability.
They have just emerged from their first in-person meeting in 3 years and say it was a success. Climate correspondent Isabel Ewing reports from Suva.
A family photo after 3 years apart. The old guard meeting with the new, Samoa's first female leader. And a snapshot of Pacific history, the highest number of women on the Leaders Forum ever. Smiles and their best attempt at a united front before heading behind closed doors to mend the rifts and thrash out the challenges. For the Pacific leaders, no question of what's top of the agenda.
This region will never be distracted from climate change because that will determine whether we live or whether we die. And that's the reality.
Hopeful Australia will take climate action seriously.
Other bigger states, as you know, were more ambiguous, but they're not now.
The next generation making the most noise.
Here in the Pacific, there's this slogan, there's this common saying that we're drowning. We're not drowning, we are fighting.
Because here in the Pacific, people don't want to be painted as helpless. They are centre stage in the climate crisis and they're taking action into their own hands.
A group of uni students hoping leaders today will endorse their push to have the impact of climate change recognised in international law.
It would be a massive development in international law because it would, first of all, put human rights at the centre of climate responses.
Early signs there's been progress on another big issue here, unity.
They all look not stressed, so that's a good sign.
Not on the radar of regular people, but front of mind for the leaders. China and the US bid for power in the Pacific.
There's a strong focus on regionalism. And that within our own region, a real desire to meet our own security needs and take that family first approach. And that's something New Zealand really supports.
But the 30-year strategy signed off by leaders a significant step in Pacific nations forging their own path.
They are no longer just the chessboard for geopolitical engagement, and they're not only the pawns for geopolitical engagement. They have a status and they have a significant role to play.
The Pacific attracting attention and funding from the big players and reclaiming its power.
Well, kia ora, Isabel. We've just heard from Jacinda Ardern. How did the meeting go?
That's right, Sam. We've just heard from the Prime Minister here at the Embassy residence in Suva, and she emphasised that there was a strong sense of unity in the room today, a recognition of the need to work together, and that'll certainly be a relief for leaders after their last meeting had some real niggles over climate change. On climate change, as you heard in the story there was a call for the leaders to endorse Vanuatu's push to have the harm from climate recognised in international law. Now that's happened. Leaders have called on the UN to request that the International Court of Justice issue an opinion on the obligation of states to protect people from harm from things like sea level rise. Now, if that happens, that is a historic move and one that's really significant given that it would have come from a small country like Vanuatu. Now, we also understand that leaders have given Aussie leader Anthony Albanese a chance to walk the talk on climate action. And the message here is that although geopolitics has dominated what's been talked about recently, and that might be what matters to the rest of the world, here in the Pacific, the focus is very much on climate change.
Our climate correspondent Isabel Ewing there reporting live from Suva. Kia ora, Isabel.